I mean, the UK has lost the rough storage facility in the last couple of years, and it was never replaced. And so that makes all of Europe somewhat more susceptible to a sudden demand in gas. But the problem that Europe is facing on the electricity front right now is just the fact the wind has disappeared. Last year was extremely windy, and this year is more normal, and therefore you've seen average wind speeds go down about, well, in Germany in the first 5 months of the year, they went down about 35%. It's hard to store electricity. So the reserves have to be in alternative forms of generating electricity, be that natural gas, coal, nuclear, whatever. But what Europe has been doing is shutting down coal and shutting down nuclear, which is putting more and more pressure on gas to make up the difference. So it's not just you would need more gas storage, you'd also potentially need more gas generation capacity.
Well, given that natural gas is seen as a key bridging fuel to get us from now to the point where we are more reliant on those renewable energy sources, what are Europe's options and what does the path forward look like?
Well, the options for increasing the availability of gas, there aren't that many, unfortunately. One of them would be for Europe to produce more of its own gas. But just the opposite, the European politicians and the public in general and investors alike have been trying to push the international majors that are based in Europe, BP is a shining example, out of the upstream business, de-emphasizing not just in gas, but in oil as well, but de-emphasizing production. And so European production, of course, has been dropping since 2000, but it's still going down. There could be a refocus on at least trying to slow the rate of decline, if not actually adding a bit more European production. That would be step one in my to-do list. Step two would be to try to increase pipeline supplies, because pipeline supplies, and that can basically North Africa, Central Asia, Russia, perhaps Norway, these are much more reliable than LNG. The LNG's famous flexibility, as Europe is finding out now, is a two-edged sword when supplies are tight. So I would not actually recommend that Europe try to increase its dependence upon LNG in this environment.
And Ron, we know the president has used this event in the past to focus on domestic issues. He's often angled his comments towards a domestic audience. But with Europe's energy supply crunch and the cost of gas in focus, the international community is paying very close attention to what unfolds over the next couple of hours. We've just heard President Putin say that European countries should not deal in blame shifting, as he characterized it. With regards to what happens next, though, he also said that Russia is prepared to discuss additional steps to strengthen energy security with Europe. Ron, with what strings attached?
Well, I think the one thing that Russia is going to want to see is more long-term contracts with Russian exporters, probably just Gazprom, and a full usage for Europe to allow the full usage of Nord Stream 2, which of course is now physically completed, and they're waiting for approval for it. I think those are going to be the two main strings, and it's pretty straightforward. They would like to have a commitment to buy Russian gas from the European side on a long-term basis. I do think, too, that this hard push by Europe, and this is a point that's being made by Putin and some others, this hard push by Europe to move to all short-term gas supply signals, the breaking of the long-term oil contracts and converting them to month-forward and day-forward pricing is now showing to be, well, to expose markets or expose consumers to a very high degree of volatility in price. Whereas the irony is if Europe still had all oil-linked prices like they did, say 12 years ago, the price would be several multiples lower than it currently is.